I'm Dan DiBiasio, president of Wilmington College. Welcome to Run for Glory, the story of the 1980 Wilmington College Quakers football team. The intense spirit and spectacular success of that dream season will be recounted in the interviews that follow. So on behalf of the entire Wilmington College community, I thank you for your support and hope you enjoy the program.
Wilmington, Ohio, September 1980. Something was different that September as students made their way back to Wilmington College for the start of the fall quarter. Call it a buzz, a vibe, a feeling that this year could be the year for the Quakers football team. And why not? A solid group of returning lettermen, along with an outstanding freshman class, led all to believe that the 1980 edition of the Fightin Quakers would be a team of dominance, a team of destiny, a team that would run for glory. Entering his 9th season as head coach, Bill Ramseyer had already established himself as a winning coach who stressed preparation and discipline. Going into the 1980 season, he felt optimistic about his squad.
I thought it could be a special team, and I wrote each one of them a handwritten letter that summer, and wrote something different in each one, but trying to let them know what my expectations were and what I hoped were their expectations. I thought it could be special.
And leading the charge into that special season would be a quarterback that was, well, special.
Yeah, John marched to the beat of a different drummer. He, and the first couple of years were tough years for him to adjust to what my expectations were. And as he began his junior year, I think he finally realized that it was going to be my way, and he had a pretty good junior year. And at the end of the year, I felt that he had the potential to really break out his senior year.
Well, I loved the guy. I mean, he was like a second father to me. I'd been out of high school 2 or 3 years, went in the Navy. I knew I didn't want to work, and this college life beat the heck out of going to work. So I'm here having some fun, and we sure had it.
So he goes out there in the field and we're practicing a little bit. We go 7-on-7 right off the bat and he throws this ball that's like a bullet. He can throw the ball.
For sure I thought he was a tackle, sloppy, and then as soon as he talked, I thought, man, this guy's gonna lead us somewhere. Threw the ball end over end as hard as you could. He'd break your fingers every day in practice, but he had such a good time and we played off of that. And he was older. I think he was 24 or 5, and he led us.
As Ramseyer and his staff methodically prepared the squad for the upcoming season, an anxious group of students organized and formed a cheering section that would affectionately become known as Gang Green. Membership qualifications? Simple. Be loud, be proud, and wear green.
It was just nice coming onto a hostile field and seeing, all the green shirts, the gang green, and it just made you feel more at home, when you went against these teams. And I remember some of the playoff games, the 2 playoff games that we went to. All of our fans went with us. It was incredible. Our fans were great.
And then to go to a game away, 3 hours away, 2 hours away, and see 50 or 60 students there just yelling their heads off, that was really cool. It was like everyone was a part of it. It wasn't just the players out in the field doing it. Everyone was a part of it.
You knew when you went on a road game, we were going to have a big crowd, bigger than what they would bring down to our place. So it made a huge difference.
This campus didn't differentiate between the athletes and the fans and the cheerleaders and people in the arts. We were all, you knew if somebody went home for the weekend here, we just thrived on the 500 kids that would be here going crazy, and they did.
The team would be tested early as the season opener pitted the Quakers against the defending NAIA National Champion Findlay Oilers. And although 9 games appeared on the schedule, the single focus was quite simple: beat Findlay.
There's no way I could understate the importance of the Findlay game. Our kids weren't dumb. They knew we had to beat Findlay. And so I didn't downplay it. I didn't try to downplay it. I wasn't thinking about what if. We had to win.
That's all we talked about was Findlay. They were national champs the year before, and you knock off the national champion from the year before, it's a good start. So that was it. That was the sole focus, and we didn't think any farther ahead than that. And we really didn't. It's boring saying take one game at a time, like they always do, but that's exactly what we did. We took that game was our season, the first game of the year.
Because Findlay was the biggest game as far as for the year. That kind of set the tone. And when we beat Findlay, and I think I had a good game that game, and we beat them. And we beat them, it wasn't a close game. We beat them pretty soundly. And I knew right there that we was gonna do something.
There was a lot of people in that league. Hanover was tough. Anderson was tough. There's a lot of people in that Buckeye Hoosier Conference that was tough. Bluffton and Earlham was coming along. But Findlay was the main thing. Kind of like, Ohio State, Michigan, but it was who we wanted to beat.
In order to defeat the defending national champs, Coach Ramseyer was looking for an edge, and he found it in a little piece of green cloth with orange letters.
I was always looking for gimmicks, and that spring I thought, it'd be kind of neat to put beat Findlay in orange letters on the front of the jerseys. The only person that knew it, I told Bruce, and my wife, of course. Didn't tell anybody else. And when it finally got time to go down and have somebody go down and pick them up, I told Mabel, our equipment manager, but no one else knew. And I told them, no one else can know.
As everyone knows, a good inside job needs a good wheelman. Enter student trainer Jeff Moore.
I'm pretty sure it was the walkthrough on Friday that we were taping players up, and Roger pulled me aside and said, I have something I need you to do, and informed me that there was a car waiting for me over at maintenance, I think like a 75 Brown Pinto with an AM-only radio. And he said I needed to drive to Oxford, Ohio, where we purchased our jerseys from and all of our uniforms. And there was boxes waiting there, and if I saw anything, I wasn't to say anything about what I saw. Here on green pieces of material sewn onto the jerseys were beat Findlay.
Normally the home team wears dark jerseys, the visiting team wears white. We came out on the field and we had our white jerseys on, and Dick Strom, the Findlay coach, just had a fit. And he came out in the field and he says, "What's going on?" He says, "We came down here, we didn't bring 2 sets of jerseys, we got our white jerseys." He said, "Oh, Dick, man, I'm sorry about that. When we go in, we'll change, and everything will be fine." Well, we go back in the locker room after the pregame warm-up, and Mabel has each one put on a hanger attached to each player's locker. And I still get chills. To a man, they almost cried. They were so hyped. They just went nuts.
I think when we got in the locker room, instead of us having that thought about, the 2-3 minute jitters or thinking about the game to start, we were so pumped up about those jerseys just to think that had happened that I think it took our mind. It actually, I think, put us at ease, and it got us out there thinking about the game right out of the chute, as opposed to maybe taking the first 5 or 10 minutes of that game to be thinking about it. So it definitely gave us a new direction, and I think a new belief in ourselves.
The game was ours. They weren't going to beat us. That got us going. We were already sky high anyway. But yeah, that was a genius. I really believe that was the injection that we needed to walk out there with the attitude and the swagger that we could beat the defending national champions, and which we did, put a good looking on them.
Early in the third quarter, a touchdown strike from John Calhoun to Dave Brown tied the score at 14-14. Then the Quaker D dug deep. and shut down the Oilers' O. Soon, the Wilmington offense was controlling the line of scrimmage and opening holes for Calhoun, Gary Worthy, and Russell Williams. The trio skipped and plowed their way through the Findlay defense and took the lead on a 4th and goal dive by Worthy. A recovered fumble led to another Quakers touchdown on a Calhoun keeper, making the final score Wilmington 28, Findlay 14.
We beat the defending national champion. And I think our people, as a result of that afternoon, they felt that we could do whatever we decided we wanted to do.
Having just knocked off the reigning national champions, the campus was ready to party. And we're not just talking about the student body.
After the game, we're at the SIG house, and everybody's all pumped up, and of course, that was the place to go. And being a SIG, I was taking my position not far from the tap and standing in the doorway, and the place was crowded, and music is blaring, and the door opens up, and through walks, I remember Coach Ramseyer and Coach Sims, and I think Coach Watson was there as well. And I liken it now when I think back to it as you see in the movies where the needle drags across the record and, you know, silence reigns. And I just remember, I took a deep breath, just like, oh man, a lot of people are in a lot of trouble. Why are they here?
We all had a wonderful time, and you know, it was a time for celebration, and it was a time for just rejoicing in everything, because a group of young men had just, you know, probably succeeded at one of the greatest victories that we could ever have here.
The following week, it was off to Richmond, Indiana to take on Earlham College in the annual Quaker Bowl. A second-half offensive surge sparked by Worthy and Williams put the game away. Fightin Quakers 51, Hustlin' Quakers 24. The Quakers' next opponent would be Anderson College. Trailing 7-6 at the half, Wilmington never established any sort of momentum, losing the game and perhaps some of their confidence 21-6. As the team returned to the practice field, still smarting from the loss, Coach Ramseyer sensed a lack of effort and focus from the troops, and that was unacceptable.
You know, I said, we're going to cancel the season. You know, I knew we weren't, but you know, I just absolutely threw a fit. And the guys, the seniors, the captains, really took charge and really took control. And I left. I was up the north edge of the campus somewhere, just walking, and they took the squad back out on the field, and they finished practice.
Do we go back out? Do we wait for an assistant? Everybody read about Bobby Knight and the coaches that they throw, and then you're supposed to sit there and wait. He left. That was it.
Actually, believe it or not, I really think Calhoun stepped up to the plate there that practice, if I recall, and being the quarterback, which is what he should have done, and he did. You know, he stepped up and kind of took over, and guys quit screwing around and realized, you know, this is business. And we were still licking our wounds over getting beat by Anderson. We didn't like it. We knew we were good. You know, we pretty well knew we were good, and when we got beat by Anderson, we were still cowtailing it. Daddy Raz, as they call him, fired us up.
A trip to face winless Taylor University was a nice way to cure whatever was ailing the green and white. A pair of Calhoun to Dave Brown touchdown strikes and 2 Gary Worthy rushing scores was just what the doctor ordered. Wilmington 30, Taylor 14, in a laugher. The Quakers returned to a packed Townsend Field for a homecoming matchup against Hanover College. An unstoppable offensive attack and a stingy defense resulted in a 39-20 thumping of the Panthers.
The polls start coming out, you know, we're ranked nationally, and you know, then we kind of bought into it. We need to be in the top, whatever it was, 12 to get in the playoffs, and you know, we kind of kept climbing as we kept winning. And then, you know, then we knew we had something going.
7 days later, the now 7th-ranked Quakers led Defiance 23-20 early in the third quarter and faced a 4th and 1 from midfield. Rather than punting, a Calhoun pitch to Worthy resulted in a 49-yard scamper to the end zone. Final score, Wilmington 31, Defiance 20.
We just knew that we were better than who we were playing. I don't know how, we just knew it. Nobody's going to stop us. We're going to take the ball and we're going to run it down your throat. Whether I'm running it, Williams is running it, or Worthy's running it, these horses on the line, you cannot stop us. And we knew that. That's just how it was.
After shutting out the Bluffton Beavers 49-0, the 6th-ranked Quakers seemed poised and ready to take flight, literally, as a government-sponsored exhibition game in Mexico City was next on the Quakers' schedule. Following a second consecutive week of posting a 49-0 shutout over its opponent, the Quakers would return home with more questions and concerns than when they had left.
It probably wasn't a great thing to do when you had a team like we had. It almost was a fatal mistake for that season. When you got a great team, I don't even know how it came about. I just, I don't remember really too many people being real excited about it, other than getting to go to Mexico.
With the conference title and playoff berth at stake, the team prepared to face Manchester in the season finale.
A lot of our guys were sick. We were hurting. Manchester hadn't had a good record, but they were ready to play that day, and certainly we were in a dogfight. Ended up that we had to stop them on 3 successive drives inside our 10-yard line in the last quarter of the ball game to win 14-7.
The Wilmington victory, coupled with a Hanover win over Anderson, would set the stage for a rematch between the two conference foes. However, the stakes would be much higher now, as the postseason tournament was about to begin.
Naturally, there's a little bit more edge because during your regular season, there's always tomorrow. But at that point in time, because of the playoff format, it was win or go home, and we didn't want to go home.
My God, here we are. We're going to the playoffs, man. We got to win 3 games. We're in the national title game. How many guys in their life get to do anything for the national title,
By being granted a first-round home playoff game, Wilmington was required by NAIA rules to host a banquet the evening before the game. Held in the Pyle Center Dining Hall, the Quakers, along with their opponent, would be equally represented by players, coaches, and college administrators. Okay, maybe not that equally represented.
Meal's over, and the MC is trying to conduct the program afterwards, and we hear this crowd just going crazy outside. And so Dr. Lucas suggested that maybe I ought to go down and quiet things down a little bit. Although he was just as excited as I was about the fact that we had that crowd there and that they were going nuts.
Everybody looking around thinking, what the heck? And a couple people went over and kind of peeked and come back and was snickering, and before long everybody wanted to go see what was going on. But that back to the support that was going on, I'm sure those guys, Hanover left up out of here thinking, man, how come we don't have that at our college? Because, they just didn't. I don't think anybody did. Nobody had the gangrene.
Next thing you know, you guys are out going crazy, and it was so cool. Hanover guys were just like, you guys are idiots. What's going on here? This game is supposed to be formal, whatever, and you guys are cool. It was cool. I remember that, absolutely.
Saturday, November 22nd, 1980. There was no blimp flying over Alumni Field at Wilmington High School on that day. That was taking place 60 miles north as the Buckeyes were getting ready to take on the Wolverines. But for the Fightin Quakers and their fans, there was no place they would rather be on that chilly November afternoon as they prepared to enter the postseason for the first time in school history.
We beat them at our homecoming, and we played pretty well. And we felt going into the playoff game that after we looked at tapes that they had improved tremendously from that point on. So we knew it was going to be a tough game.
The Quakers sprinted out to a 13-0 lead on a 1-yard run by Gary Worthy, followed by an 8-yard touchdown pass from John Calhoun to Dave Dill. Hanover was not about to go away. A short touchdown run followed by a blocked punt for a score put the Panthers ahead at the half, 14-13. The third quarter resembled two heavyweights slugging it out for the title. First, it was Worthy scoring from 10 yards out. Then Hanover landed blows from the 2-yard line and then again on a long bomb. The Quakers answered back on another Worthy score, this one from 15 yards away. Your score after 3, Wilmington 28, Hanover 28. Number 22 found the end zone for the 4th time in the 4th quarter, pushing the Quakers ahead. But midway through the final quarter, those pesky Panthers recovered a fumble and tied the score at 35, sending the game into overtime.
We had talked with the squad that week about overtime playoff and what it meant and how it was conducted and that sort of thing. We went over in quite a bit of detail just in case, but and I'm glad we did.
Hanover drew first blood in overtime from 1 yard out. The Quakers answered on a 20-yard touchdown toss from Calhoun to Dill, who snuck behind the Hanover defense for the game-tying score.
And I just took off down toward the goal line, and I know there were 6 or 7 of us that went up for the ball, and I just jumped and I ended up bringing the ball down. And at the time, I didn't even realize that I was in the end zone because it was kind of a distance down there. And I kind of had lost sight of where I was on the field, and then as I stood up, I saw I was almost at the end of the back of the end zone there. So it turned out to be a pretty good situation.
Probably looked great in the stands, but I had no idea where I was. It was get rid of the ball, man, get it out of here. So I just threw it. It went over the pile of Hanover players, and it just so happened Dave Dill had turned right to the sidelines and took off streaking. I never laid an eye on him. I never seen him. And in the film, but he's running down the sideline and the ball's just right there, right on the money. I swear I'd never seen him.
The fate of the Quakers seemed doomed as the second overtime stanza began with a Calhoun interception. The Panthers' drive to victory was abruptly interrupted by a bone-jarring hit administered by linebacker Craig Colston.
Can't tell you exactly what happened. It was all like a blur, but all I know is I got my hand on the football and ripped it out, and the next thing you know, we've recovered a fumble, and here we go again.
In the third overtime session, Hanover rushed for yet another score. The Quakers quickly responded on a short pass from John Calhoun to Russell Williams. That number 43 turned into a 20-yard touchdown, bullying his way down the sideline for the score.
That game was just so powerful offensively all throughout it anyway. No defense. Our defense wasn't doing very good, neither was theirs. So it was like, just let them score and let us get back on the field.
In the fourth tie-breaking series, Calhoun fired a strike to Dill, putting the ball on the 4. A perfectly executed sweep left saw Dan Hennigan race down the near sideline, now framed by members of Gang Green, for the go-ahead score. The Panthers took to the field with every intention of tying the score. However, safety Ed Miner's intentions were entirely different.
Yeah, it was an incredible feeling just hearing the fans and not really knowing if the game was over after I picked it off because the game was so long. So is this it or do we still go? It was the first time we've ever been in that situation. So we just kind of jumped up and down, not realizing if the game was over, and finally the fans were on the field, so we knew the game was over.
I was watching the back judge, and the back judge went like this. He reached for it, and then he put it away and he says, "It's yours, son."
That probably was the most exciting of all the games, even though we went further than that. But that game, because you would be certain we were going, oh, it's over. It's over. And then we'd come back, and then it was just back and forth and back and forth. From an excitement standpoint, I think that was the best game.
November 22nd, 1980. No blimp, but plenty of fireworks. Your final score, Wilmington 56, Hanover 49. And for the Quakers, it was on to the Final Four and a date with the undefeated William Jewell Cardinals. The Quakers and the Cardinals traded touchdowns and field goals in the first half. The Cardinals scored first on a 10-yard touchdown pass. A Quaker field goal and a touchdown, courtesy of Gary Worthy, was followed by a William Jewell field goal, making the score 10-9 Cardinals at the half. The second half began with the Quakers plowing their way down the field and taking the lead for good, as Gary Worthy slipped his way into the end zone. The two-point conversion by Calhoun made the score 17-10, and the Green Machine never looked back. The mighty Quakers defense frustrated the Cardinals' ground attack, giving up only 11 yards on the day, while the offense continued to roll up yardage. The frustration spilled over into the press box, as the William Jewell cameraman decided it was just too hard to watch, and decided to meet Russell Williams in the end zone following the senior's 45-yard dash to the goal line. Camera work was once again in question on this 22-yard touchdown run from the nation's leading scorer, Gary Worthy.
We had the ball on their 2-yard line and made a first down, and John Calhoun calls timeout. No, John, no, you don't rub their face in it. And so that's when I decided to take a knee, because obviously the game was won, and so we did. But yeah, we played a pretty dominating second half.
And they say the camera never lies. Well, neither does the scoreboard. Wilmington 31, William Jewell 17. Every player dreams about playing in the final game of the season, which means a shot at the national championship. For the Wilmington College Quakers, that would mean a cross-country trip to Tacoma, Washington, to take on the Pacific Lutheran Knights. The Lutes employed a bend-but-don't-break style of defense, allowing the Quakers to move the ball between the 20s. All the while, their offense capitalized on big play after big play and led the half in a big way, 31-3.
And I remember one play in that game, I ran a guy down at the end of the first half, and he gets up and says, "Man, that was great, nice tackle." Like, okay, thanks.
We always fed on emotion, and we weren't a dirty team, but we thrived on somebody being that way to us. In Pac Lutheran, they'd knock you down, say God bless you, and help you back up. Our guys didn't know how to react to that.
By jumping out to such a huge halftime lead, the Quakers were taken out of their familiar ball control attack and forced to take to the air. And although the Quakers played the Lutes straight up even in the second half, the lead was too much to overcome. Final score, Pacific Lutheran 38, Wilmington 10.
It was difficult because when you get that close, you want it all. But they had a very talented team. They really did.
The town got behind us. The whole college got behind us. Coach Ramseyer got everyone motivated to follow the team. It was a very tight-knit family that I felt at that point because of that one event, that whole season.
The Quakers had made it to the final game, a game they had set their sights on early in the season. Certainly, they were disappointed. But as the days turned into months, and the months into years, disappointment was replaced by another word.
Pride. I have a lot of pride in what our kids accomplished. And I know that the players have a tremendous amount of pride in what they accomplished. And I think it's an indication that when you set out to do something, you put your mind to something, and you say, nothing's going to prevent me from accomplishing what I want to accomplish, that you can accomplish great things. there's an awful lot of people would love to play in a national championship game in any sport, and not very many people get to experience it, and they did.